Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Vision Health Pioneers Demo Day. So happy that you're joining us here in the room or online, or maybe a little bit later on when you watch this. Thank you so much for being here. We have an absolutely spectacular program for you tonight or today. And best of all, we're going to have a whole bunch of startups that are going to be compressing years worth of their lives, blood, sweat, and tears, innovation, creativity, and out-of-the-box thinking down to 5 minutes. It's an absolutely impossible task, but they're doing it for all of you. I'm really looking forward to that. We have an absolutely spectacular lineup of startups that I think you're really going to enjoy. Now, for those of you that are new to Vision Health Pioneers, they are an incubator based in Berlin, and they help out early stage startups. They help first-time founders with health tech, and they help them out with a whole bunch of different things like free office space, up to 80,000 euros in equity-free funding, business opportunities, and there's even training and much, much more. So it's absolutely great program. You're going to see about 5 startups up here on stage today, but there have been a much more that have gone through the program. There's been 25 in total, I think. And of the startups that are currently in the program, there's a absolutely great female to male ratio. I think there's 20 women and 15 men. And as an outsider, I can tell you that's really great. That's much better than most other incubators I've seen out there. So great job, Vision Health Pioneers. Now, I am back. This is my second time presenting the demo day to you, and I'm really looking forward to this. Also, because of what I've seen before, I'm expecting good stuff. Now, for those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Justin Halsall. I'm a startup founder myself. I'm working on a company called Record Once. And not many people know this, but I'm actually dyslexic, and I always really appreciate it when companies do demos of their software with video. I'm a slow reader, so a video I think is a much better medium for that. But when when living in New York City and working as a technology evangelist for IBM, I actually had to create these videos myself, and you know, I'm comfortable up here on stage. I'm comfortable performing, and I actually study multimedia, so these videos should be a walk in the park for me. But they were absolutely god-awful, very time-consuming. You have to re-record the same thing over and over until you get it right, and then you have to spend another half day editing. And at the end of it, all that you have to show for is a 1-minute video that you're too ashamed to even show your own mum. So I thought, this is broken, and we need to fix this, and that's why I started Record Once. And it's a screen recording software that actually understands what you're recording, and because of that, it can go ahead and do all the editing for you. All of these little mistakes that make you re-record, it fixes for you. And because I hated doing the same thing over and over again, and recording all these times till I got it right, called it Record Once. And okay, and I can hear myself, that's fine. So basically the end result is I have a piece of software that allows you to record video tutorials easier and faster than it would take to do the same thing with text. So that's what I'm working on a day-to-day basis. Now you know kind of like my background, and you have an idea of where I'm coming from when I'm asking the questions to the startups. Today is a special day because today I get to be your moderator and guide throughout this event. So let's have a look at what we're going to be up to today. So that's me. Let's go to the agenda. So up first we have a futurist that's going to be talking us through the future of health tech. So that's going to be, and the future of healthcare in general, that's going to be very interesting, a great keynote there. And then we're going to have some words of wisdom from our alumni, and then our 5 startups are going to present. Originally, we actually had 6 startups that were going to be here today, but unfortunately, a couple of days ago, a death in the family happened of one of the startups, so they can't make it. Very understandably, of course. So our condolences towards them and our best wishes for them and their family members throughout these tough times. Now, we're experimenting with some things a little bit. Some things are a little bit different than earlier years. You won't just have the introduction from the MC. We're actually going to get somebody else to do the startup introductions. We're going to get our coaches that coach the teams to introduce the startups. They're going to have some insights that nobody else has, so that's going to be quite interesting. But it is kind of one of my favorite things to do, right? When I'm up here on stage, introduce people. So I'm going to go through the startups really quickly and introduce them anyways. So up first we have Aidable, and then we're going to go to Physikit. Then we have Blended Support that's going to present for you. FreeMind is going to free your mind as well. And then we're going to close off with Noah Therapies. So that's going to be great, and I think you're really going to enjoy them. But it's not just going to be a passive experience. You're here in the room, or you're sitting at home. You're not just consuming. You can actually interact with our startups here today as well. And I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a moment to grab your phone and scan this QR code. Or if you're not the QR code scanning type, I know some people are kind of like morally opposed to it. At least I used to be for the longest time. You can go to slido.com and enter hashtag DemoDay2022, and that way you'll be able to ask our startups some questions. Now, maybe you don't have a question in your mind, but I know you have impeccable taste when it comes to other people's questions, and so you will be able to upvote other people's questions, and especially if they're appropriate for you or you think for the crowd. Whatever reasons you have, feel free to up or downvote other questions. Now, I talked about hashtags. Let's talk some more about hashtags. If you want to share all of the amazing things that you're seeing up here on stage, please do so. Please use hashtag Vision Health Pioneers and hashtag DemoDays 2020, Demo Day 2022 for that. Of course, Vision Health Pioneers is on all the social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, where else? Twitter, yeah, I can't forget that one. And so feel free to follow them if you're not already doing so. All right, and now we can get to the actual part of the show. I gave you a little bit of a sneak peek of what Vision Health Pioneers is, but I can never really do it justice. So I'm actually going to get to the founders to come up here on stage and tell you a bit more about it. We have the co-founder and program director, Marijn Lesje, who's going to be up here. And then we have the co-founder and senior advisor to Vision Health Pioneers up here on stage. His name is Joscha Hofferbert. Please give it up for our amazing Marijn and Joscha.
Hello, hello, hello. Is it working? Perfect. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining the stream. I think it's the third demo day. Can you imagine, Joscha? The third one. Super, super tough. I think when we started the journey, we started as many of the founders here. We had a vision, we had an idea. We both worked for startup bootcamp, supported early stage entrepreneurs, and then we thought we might be able to do it, and maybe we also do it better and in a different way. And then we sat together, wrote a proposal, like a business plan, handed it in. We were looking for investors, and we were very lucky to actually found investors by the Senate of Berlin, the European Social Fund, and the European Commission. Not the classic investors that you might look for, but they gave us 3 million euro in the last years to support early stage entrepreneurs. And it's amazing to actually also see the 5 teams pitching today. They are out of 2 cohorts. So it's a mix. Some of them started in January and some of them started in April. And yes, it's always exciting, doesn't matter what you do.
You have to turn yourself, I think. Yes, cool. Yes, 3 years now, 3 years of very exciting startups that we supported. The first demo day that we did was actually only online. The second one was hybrid, and the third one is hybrid as well. And over the time, we had more than 20 startups, or supported more than 20 startups, and which is, when I look back, quite amazing to see how all these startups developed their solution and how they progressed over the time. And that is the same for all the startups, especially for these ones this year, but also the ones the years before. But of course, every cohort is very unique, as you can imagine. Supporting or seeing these teams over the entire period is unique. They have unique founders, they have unique solutions, they have unique ideas that they want to develop. And there's one thing that stands out for me in this cohort, especially in these two cohorts, because today, as Marlene said already, it's not just one cohort, but we have two cohorts here today on the stage. And one aspect that stands out for me for both of these cohorts is that the teams are very, very open to receive feedback and to receive input from the mentors, coaches, external people, advisors, everyone that they were talking to. And not even they are just taking their advice, but they are really searching for it. And this is something that I've experienced, and probably you've seen this as well, over the entire 10-month or 8 months for some of them so far. And what I want to say with it is that I would like to emphasize everyone in the room here, but also at home, around the world, wherever you watch us right now, to really reach out to the teams, give them your advice. They are open to take the advice and take it into their consideration. Some of them, of the teams, and probably if you've talked to them, you will see that or you hear that from them as well. And maybe you feel it also today in one of the pitches or two of the pitches. Did also pivot during the time in the incubator, which was not only because they got the feedback from the advisors and coaches, but also because they take it really, really serious. So again, please reach out to the team, support the teams. If you have a question to them, reach out to them. If you have an advice, reach out to them. I promise you, they will be taking this into consideration and will be open to discuss these problems or criticism or whatever you give them with you.
You can also do it via Slido, by the way. So the names of the people that are going to present will be visible, so you can type it in LinkedIn, but also use Slido also to leave a comment. It doesn't have to be a question, because we're not just looking for criticism or questions, but also for positive feedback on the solutions, maybe also options to collaborate. Feel free to do that. We want to be as interactive as possible, but we are not the main people here on stage today, so I'm happy to leave the stage and to give the stage to the people that really matter. And I keep my fingers crossed, and good luck to everybody that is going to present today. So for all the 5 teams, it's an achievement to be here, and we are really lucky to support you. And just as a reminder, the journey is not done. They will stay with us for a few more months, so you will definitely see them again.
Thank you so much for that. And for those of you here in the room, of course, it will be easier to chat with our startups. You'll be able to mingle with them a little bit later on. If you're watching this from home, at the end, I'll give you some more tips on how you can get in touch with the startups as well. So stay tuned for that. Now we're going to our first keynote, and the startups that you're going to see up here are going to be helping shape the future of healthcare. But we have somebody else that's going to be giving us a little bit more of a sneak peek of what the future of healthcare is going to be looking. And she is the founder and director of Futurity Systems. She is a futurist, and we'll be telling you a little bit about the future of health. I'm looking forward to this. Please give it up to the amazing Cecilia Tham.
Thank you so much, Justin, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I am hoping that you could hear me. I wish I could be there to celebrate this demo day, this special day with all of you. Unfortunately, I am here in Barcelona, and I wanted to congratulate also the founders of Vision Health, because this is a wonderful initiatives. And being an entrepreneur myself, I know how hard the journey has been to kind of go through a boot camp like this, but they're also very, very, very advantageous to how you move forward. So like Justin said, I am a futurist. I don't know if you can tell by these very pretentious glasses that I am a futurist, but I do want to share some of my thoughts with all of you regarding the future of health. So with that in mind, I will be sharing my slides. Thank you. So I wanted to start by kind of breaking down when we, well, first of all, obviously, hello, but I wanted to start, the conversation by breaking down how we approach future, because it can be very daunting and it can be very seemingly impossible, right? And so from the kind of the industry standpoint, the future industry standpoint, we came from a place where we used to look at future as a kind of a theoretical perspective. We look at it as almost like forecasting and just seeing it from afar. But we have more and more tools to help us kind of navigate these unknowns. And so we often, from our work, we look at it from 4 different angles. We look at it from the science perspective, so understanding the limitations, and I think this is very, very important when we're talking about health. And from the science perspective, we need to understand almost the state of the art and how technologies can help us kind of push those boundaries. But we also have to have, from the other spectrum, more kind of conceptual, more imaginative, a more creative aspect of understanding how those things could be applied. And then from another opposite angle is kind of the engineering aspect of it, because through prototyping, we can then gain firsthand insights on understand how those futures could be played out. And lastly, and definitely not the least, is the importance of understanding how that could be applied through a business strategy, right? Because innovations that remain as innovations that aren't applied have absolutely no effect into the society. So this is kind of sort of what we do. We break this down into, analyzing, and this is a very data science-driven approach, to synthesizing, which is, so if you think about analyzing as breaking things apart, we can think about synthesizing as in putting them back together. And this is a core theme that we apply kind of almost like a fundamentals for us understanding futures. I mentioned about engineering, and later on I will show you kind of our approach into prototyping. And then lastly is applying futures and how to create roadmaps and do backcastings for those futures to come. So more often than not, within companies and startups, we're very much focused on growth. And there's only really 2 ways of growing a company, right? So you can either launch a new product, or you can launch within a new market. And so these are the kind of the 2 dimensions of how you go about scaling your company. But we need to be more and more aware of more tangential type of disruption. And we call those game-changing opportunities and existential threats lying within the next and beyond horizon. And so when we look at those game-changing opportunities that are even outside of our verticals, outside of health, those could be the ones that could be affecting what you're doing currently, and most definitely will be affecting you in the future. And we will discuss a little bit about what those things are. So I would like to take the rest of the talk to kind of share with you our positions about 6 mega trends that you should know. Some of them are very specifically about health. I would say almost all of them will have influence on the industry of health regardless. So the first one is this notion of what I'm calling the great coupling and the great decoupling. Yeah, and I will explain a little bit about this. And so in our developed countries, especially in developed countries, let's say eating and consumption, right? Because we are developed countries, most often than not, there are 2 reasons why we consume. We're either eating for sustenance, so eating for survival, or we're eating for pleasure, and we call that the hedonic consumption. And because in our society today, we are more and more consuming for pleasure, more so than we are consuming for sustenance. And so the thesis here, the decoupling process here, is that we're questioning whether if we can separate these 2 systems, and by separating these 2 systems, and then can we then replace or think alternatively how we can eat for pleasure that can kind of promote our health, promote our, our consumption, make us more responsible and less wasteful, right? But how do we go about doing that? So one way of decoupling is that I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with culture meat, right? And this is a process of decoupling animals from the cells themselves. And this is one form of kind of thinking about decoupling from a biological standpoint. And so one of the great things about decoupling is that when you recouple them, when you recombine them, you can recombine them in new ways that we have never seen before. And so some of the latest technology in this kind of recombinant is that there are scientists in Singapore that are able to create this what they're calling the virtual lemonade, essentially in a cup that is connected to electricity, full of water, and this is just simple water, that when you drink, it tastes like lemonade using simply electricity, because your human bodies are mostly just electrical signals throughout. Similar device that have been developed in, I believe, in Southeast Asia using electricity going through chopsticks to be able to induce saltiness without food. Another example of coupling and decoupling is that scientists are able to grow culture meat cells inside on a glass blade. And so using glass blades as a bioreactor instead of using a machinery bioreactor, so that you can create these recombinant. And this is an example that I like very much. This is Neri Oxman. Neri Oxman formerly was at MIT Media Lab, a professor at MIT Media Lab, and she had devised this very forward-thinking wearable. And this is a microbiome wearable where you have bacteria that is within this kind of textile that could that could photosynthesize, and you can absorb the energy through your skin. And so this is kind of recoupling the applications of microbiome in wearables in ways that we have never seen before. Another kind of very interesting approach to coupling, decoupling, is that once we decoupled, as I mentioned before, you can recouple them in new ways. And this is an example of the possibility of the future of designer meat, where we can combine cultured beef cells, a good culture protein from beef, with good fat cells from fish. Hence this kind of a hybrid beef-fish that we might see in the future that is good for you. We might even see, once you have decoupled and if you applied a layer of precision and hyper customization, what we might see in the future as well is that we might see food as medicine, where we can grow food with hyper personalization and hyper precision, so that we can dosify medicine through food itself. So let me share with you some of the projects. So I mentioned earlier that our approach has always been very much focused on the ability to engineer some of these features. And so these are the projects that we have built in-house to understand a little bit of the capabilities of the technology. So this is the first one, called polygenomic plantable meals. So thinking on the understanding of the decoupling of the culture cells, we wanted to couple them back. And this time coupling them a hybrid between a plant and cultured meat, so that we can plant, quote unquote, a whole entire meal. So, and the reason for this is because if we could, plant, the question, at least the very minimum, is to understand if we can plant the whole entire meal, then can we save, packaging? Can we be more precise in our nutrition? Can we be more intentional in what we're eating? Can we save in logistics? Those are some of the questions that we were asking ourselves on how we can create these kind of features. So some experiments that we have done in-house to understand if this is a kind of product that we want in the future space. Another one following with the kind of electronic chopsticks is what we're calling electronic edibles. And so this device, we wanted to understand how we can actually taste through electricity, and we built this device that I applied to myself. And so you can, in fact, taste sweet in the tip, salty on the side, sour and acidic on the back, and even, umami in the middle. I have not been so lucky to taste umami in the middle. But you can imagine the potential of this, right? You can replace sugar. Instead of eating real sugar, you can eat electronic sugar, and how that would change the way you experience food. Well, we are, I wanted to also emphasize this week, the possibility of recoupling. And so now we're trying to see if we can connect these devices to music so that you can, essentially taste music. And what does that even mean, right? And so imagine the future of Spotify for taste, for example, and how the kind of impact that we might have. And then going along the same kind of same axis of coupling and decoupling, we wanted to kind of be able to separate the hedonic eating and replace those with digital means. And so previously we talked about taste. This one is about smell. We wanted to be able to replicate smell using a hacked humidifier, and we call this vapor hall, using alcohol. And because alcohol has a low boiling point, that we're able to use this to vape, quote unquote vape. And so you can put all sorts of essence to it: orange, basil, lemon, whatever you want it to smell at that time, you can replicate that smell. Yeah. We have also kind of applied this visually so that we can add third senses to our experience. The next megatrends, as you all know, is something that have been, very talked about, which is, the metaverse, Web3, the hype train of the metaverse, right? But I wanted to emphasize something. I wanted to emphasize here the transition between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. And one of the things that I think is really, really interesting is that we're migrating into, this kind of in real life encounter, all the way into the virtual encounter. And at the same time, this virtual encounter is very much based on a distributed nature. And this leads to one thing that I think is very, very interesting, is the transition of where we place our trust. And by that, I mean, because Web3 is by definition distributed and it is trustless, we have essentially shifted our paradigm from placing our trust in companies to placing our trust amongst individuals. Why is this important? So let me explain, 10, 20 years ago, when we were operating on the Web 2, was still operating in the Web 2 realm, is that, but 20 years ago, if I were to buy something from someone unknown, I would be very doubtful about, how I can trust this person and how I can trust this transaction. But what I do trust is that I trust Amazon. So I would place my money in Amazon, and that person will sell their products in Amazon, and then we exchange, almost as if treating Amazon as a arbiter, no? So, but blockchain changed all that. Blockchain now gave us as individuals the ability to trust amongst ourselves, which means that the transactions of not only goods and services, but also data will also be massively shifted. And so you can imagine how that might impact health when we're talking about health data. And so this shift in the Web3 world is there's not one dimension, right? We understand that there are, the whole NFT and blockchain, the tech aspect of it, all the way to the hardware maturity, as well as kind of society introducing these kind of NFTs, digital goods, virtual products, all kind of built into this new paradigm, what we're calling the metaverse, that is currently being built. So I want to kind of jump right into the metaverse economy and how that applies to health. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that the metaverse economy, compared to our traditional economy, the difference is that, for those who have studied, basic economics, we know that economy, as we know it, operates on supply and demand. So if there's a high demand on a good, then you can sell it at a higher price. But it is a tangible good that, that there's a scarcity implied to it. When we're talking about metaverse economy, these are unreal assets. These are virtual assets. Virtual assets essentially have, no limitations, right? Because we can produce as many as we need, as we want. And so what we have seen so far is that people would create what's called an artificial scarcity. So they would put limitations on how many copies of these NFTs we'll have, so that we can force this scarcity onto people, so that the value could be set, right? And so that's what is the kind of the baseline of the metaverse economy. What this means is that it translates into this structure, this trifecta, where the experience then drive the identity, which drive the ownership of things. And let me explain that a little bit. And so I'm sure I'm going to use this. I don't play sports at all. I don't do sports at all, but you can imagine going to a football game. You're super excited. You're a big fan. What do? You buy a jersey of that fan, because of that sports team, because you want to be identified as that particular fan from that team, right? And this is the identity part. And so because you want to be identified as part of that team, then you want to own all of their stash. You want to own their t-shirts. You want to own their hats. You want to be present in that. So this is the same trifecta that is happening in the metaverse space. So how can we think about this operation in the metaverse space? One of the things that we need to keep in mind is what's called the tokenomics, which is simply the incentivize, how we incentivize users to spend money, right? And so or exchange anything in it. So a simple understanding of tokenomics would be like you going to OpenSea, which is an NFT platform where you can buy, sell, or trade NFTs, and that's a very, very simple understanding of tokenomics. But there are more and more complex ones, and when you apply this to health, it could have really interesting and operations that we have never seen before. And some of the more interesting applications that I have seen are the following, like walk to earn model, where when you walk, your walking data is actually connected to a blockchain, which is connected to the NFT. And so the more you walk, somehow is correspondent to the value of your NFT. And so the more you walk, the more you earn. And later when you sell that NFT, it will be more valuable. So the same concept can be applied to working out, eating healthy, and any kind of things that are connected to data or connected to some kind of evolution to your health, to your fitness, to your well-being in general. And so on that thought, I just wanted to share one of the projects with you called the Plantiverse. So this is so essentially when you pair these data into these the metaverse world, they're essentially your digital twin. So we built a digital twin of our plant called Herbie, and this is Minty here, a friend of Herbie. And the same way that the data earlier I was telling you about is connected to an NFT, well, these sensors, which is essentially data, is connected to the metaverse. And so this is Herbie here. And a word about Herbie is that Herbie is our autonomous plant, which means that Herbie can make decisions on their own. When Herbie water is low, Herbie goes to water. When light level is low, Herbie goes to the light source. And so what we did then is that we connected the sensors to NFTs. These are visualizations of their physiological status, and so they're correspondent to the sensor readings. And we minted a whole bunch of these NFTs. We sold them online, and the money that we earn from these NFTs then go back into funding initiatives through what is called the distributed autonomous organization. So plant can govern and make decisions on how they want to spend the money themselves. And so you can see kind of more iterations of virtual trees. And I wanted to share this because you can imagine that these AR and VR NFTs or NFTs could also be connected to your health data so that you can visualize and experience and bring them back into the physical world, how you want to experience these digital twins yourself. The third trend that I want to share, and it's also very, very exciting, is the democratization of technology. And in this specific scenario, I want to talk about AI-generated content. So, as you guys are probably all very familiar with, is that there's there's an exponential growth in Moore's law, where there are more and more kind of technology being developed and more being applied, and this has been doubling for many years, and this leads to how we have been accessing these technologies, right? And not only am I talking about AI, I'm also talking about many other fields, and quantum is also one of them. And so some of the impact that I've seen, even just within the last few months, is an explosion of how AI could contribute to the content, right? So this is Midjourney. If you don't know Midjourney by now, you should start playing with Midjourney. This is a text prompted image generator. And so you can literally write a text. And so all of the images that you saw earlier, some of the images that you have seen that I showed earlier, they're actually just AI generated content, right? Because that doesn't, currently there's no meat fish that exists, but this AI generator can create that imagery for us. There are also other AI generated tools like this, Kadem, which is a kind of AI prompt to AI 2D image to 3D generation. Or this one, which is GPT-3, is a tool where you can use text to generate other kind of content. So things like, for example, summarize this text as if I'm a second grader, and it will create this text to to cater to that specific use case. There are multiple different applications on this, and I find it very interesting how we can use AI to generate these content. Coming into the health space, we have applications like this where we can do ambient biometrics, and so using your phone using the camera on your phone, you can detect heart rate, your pulse analysis. This is a really interesting startup called Brainworks in the US, where they're mapping these types of ambient biometrics. And lastly, that I've talked about quantum before, this is really interesting because as we're migrating very quickly into the quantum capabilities, all of these capabilities will be, unfolded along the next couple of years, from, how AI could help optimizations and recommendations, all the way to customization and hyper-personalization, to how quantum will effectively alter drug discovery, protein folding, and many other applications in health that we have yet to see. Here we have a project in our office called Asynchronous Psychologist, where we use AI, computer vision. Actually, this is me. We built a bot that lives inside a mirror. The bot version of me actually talks to me, and it will capture the conversations that we have on a daily basis. The conversation will then be sent to a psychiatrist to evaluate my mental state. So I can talk to my mirror and say, I feel fat today, or I feel horrible, and that conversation will be sent to my psychiatrist with an evaluation, and posteriorly, my psychiatrist will send back a prescription of our conversation, so that on a daily kind of basis, I will get coached by my bot to think better about myself, and to be able to have a kind of a therapeutic asynchronous session with my therapist that looks like me, that lives in my mirror. The fourth one I'm going to go quickly is the age of autonomous commerce. We're seeing the capability of autonomous vehicles more and more these days. And one of the things that is being transitioned is that we're seeing how we start from our traditional commerce all the way to e-commerce, which is we've seen the disruption that happens there, and to mobile commerce, where we make transactions on the phone, all the way to what we think could happen, which is what we're calling a-commerce, autonomous commerce, right? And so this will, this is talking about when this particular future of how machines can be transacting on their own as if they're autonomous market participants. And that has a lot of impact, right? So imagine this particular future. If I have an autonomous vehicle and you have an autonomous vehicle and they talk to each other, they can essentially say, hey, excuse me, can you move over? I will pay you €5 as a car. And so all these kind of transactions and communications can happen on the machine-to-machine level. And this is kind of the visions that we are seeing that could be one of the outcomes in this space. So all of these things obviously will be affected. And some of the things that we envision is that what we're calling transaction membrane. So in your household, you can see that, imagine that you have a closet where all of these things that are incoming or outgoing, incoming will be groceries, could be your clean clothes, outgoing could be trash, could be recycling, could be fully optimized. And so you can also extend this to imagine how this optimizations of all the goods that are coming out and coming in it could be, fully autonomized. Is that a word? Yes, automated. I think that's where it is. So we look at what is called true cost, and this is an interesting understanding of how we can separate 5 aspects of our consumption, right? From economic cost to health cost to sustainability cost, so planetary health, to all the way to our preferences. And so if we really understand, the whole entire cost structure, then we have a better understanding of how we can incorporate these things and optimize these things. I've already talked about Herbie, the autonomous plants, and so you can also extend your vision of how, if we have a world of autonomy, the drug delivery or drug medicine delivery, or even how autonomous ambulances will be affecting in this future, could be added on into this future vision. The 5th mega trend I wanted to share is this kind of understanding of augmented beings, and I'm saying beings intentionally, because this is beyond a human, all beings in the planet, right? And by that I am talking about how, for example, this is a really, really interesting startup out in California, where this particular vest has, you can see there are these little dots along the vest. These are essentially sensors, and the founder created this vest to capture sounds that are voices in the environment, and instead of hearing it through our ears, you can sense it on your vest, right? This is interesting because this vest has been tested, for example, on a baby that has been born deaf and mute. And so what the baby could, deaf and blind, in fact. And so the baby could only learn through other means, right? Couldn't learn through hearing. And so putting this vest on the baby and hearing or sensing the voice of the mother, the baby would smile. And so what is really interesting for me is that, right now this particular vest can only hear voices within the frequency, human frequency. But imagine if we add other sort of frequencies beyond, beyond human capacity, then essentially this little girl wearing this vest could hear beyond what us normal humans can hear. And I think that's a really interesting kind of vision. I want to show this project called the remote body control that we have done in our studio. And so you can see Mark here on the left. This is supposed to be a video, but use your imagination, where when Mark moved his arm, he is actually controlling this lady over here. And so we call it remote control, body control, because this is kind of a way to almost, replicate your bodily movement, right? But what's really interesting is that, remember the recoupling concept, is that we're basically capturing the electronic signals that are through the arms and play it back in another person, whether at the same time or asynchronously. But you can also connect it to other things, right? Imagine you can connect this to a plant, where like a Venus flytrap, where every time the Venus flytrap will close, then you would receive the signal and you can move along. And so they're already using these kind of devices for people that have mobility limitations. But we're also imagining a future where, we can extend our ability and our movement by kind of digitizing our movement. So one example of this would be, imagine a pianist recording the muscle movement of a pianist and being able to play it on ourselves. And this is the last megatrends that I will share with you is as you all know, there's a massive biotechnological revolution happening. And the framework here is to understand that, we start with, the hardware, the hardware, we're talking about the electrodes, we're talking about wires, sensors, all of these things that are, tangible. You pair hardware with software, and this is your, your AI, your algorithms, your system architecture, and these are the, the soft aspect of the technology. You multiply that with what's called the wetware, and this is your biological system introduced in this kind of framework. Either we talk about your nerves, your muscles, your neurons, then we are really expanding our capabilities beyond what we have seen so far. And so we're seeing a lot of sensors that are applicable. This is a skin tattoo, electric skin tattoos that could measure certain biological status of our human body. We, for example, have been working on this project called the Brown Brush. It's in optogenetically applied toothbrush, where the light that can dictate a certain function on a biome that has been genetically modified, that when you brush your teeth, there will be effects that are the biomes are inducing through light. And the last project I wanted to share is kind of far future projects. So remembered earlier I showed one of the piece about how scientists are able to plant human heart cells inside or culture cells inside a grass blade. What I failed to tell you is that it was actually a human heart cells inside a spinach leaves. And so taking that idea, and we wanted to kind of do a speculative piece on understanding that possible future. We did this project called Growable Organs, thinking about the possibility of our ability to grow our own organ in the future. And so this is our project called Artichoke. So using kind of the scaffolding of the artichoke to replicate heart muscles that could be then extended to heart as an organ that we can use in the future. So that is it. I hope I have sparked a little bit more of the idea and a vision of what the future brings. I ask all of you to be rigorously imaginative on your startup, and thank you for listening. And please do connect with me on LinkedIn or via email, and looking forward to hear your presentations.
Thank you so much for that, Cecilia. That was fascinating. And as a software engineer, I'm really looking forward to enhancing my cooking with some programming. I'm not sure if my family members are going to be thrilled when I'm debugging dinner, but I'm sure that won't happen every day. Let's go to some questions real quick. I think we have time for one probably. So somebody asks, what role will healthcare startups play in this future world that you describe?
I think that one of the interesting aspects of startups is that they move fast and they break things. And in the process of breaking and innovating, you bring ideas to companies that might not move as fast. And so I think it's a very, very interesting kind of hybrid of how startups can actually push the boundaries far more than companies can. And so I very much see startup as a avant-gardist.
As a boundary pusher.
A boundary pusher, yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Cecilia. I really thoroughly enjoyed that, and it was fun seeing the AI art being generated. I think the artichoke, was that AI generated as well?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So good guess on my part. Thank you again for that. Let's give Cecilia another round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Now, up next, we're going to get some words of wisdom from our alumni. We're going to hear what they've been up to, and maybe hear some encouragement from them for the startups that are going to present here today. Check out the video.
Hi, I'm Florian, the CTO of AdvoSense, and I build stuff.
Hi, I'm Erin, the COO of AdvoSense, and I tell Florian to please not spend so much money when building stuff.
Hi, I'm Martina, the CEO of AdvoSense, and I ask Florian to keep building stuff and Erin for money.
At AdvoSense, we're developing an intelligent solution for elderly care, starting with an incontinence care solution for hospitals and nursing homes.
Since we left Vision Health Pioneers with an amazing network of supportive mentors and our first prototype almost 2 years ago, our now patented product is at the bedside and being tested and validated on patients before we get ready for commercialization next year, and we're also close to closing our pre-seed round.
Good luck on your pitches, everyone. Remember, you are the experts of what you're creating, so teach us why the world needs you.
Hello everyone, I am David, and I am the co-founder of Caris Digital. We are building the first online community that offers artistic activities that can improve your health and wellness.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruben, co-founder of Caris. Are you an artist interested in the connection between arts and well-being? If yes, please reach out to us. Looking forward to see all your pitches, guys, and best of luck!
Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Petra.
And we're co-founders of Breeze, where we're developing a medical device to detect and monitor chronic respiratory diseases. We want to make it as easy as measuring your blood pressure.
And what have we been up to since we left VHP last year? We have moved back to sunny Barcelona, set up an office in this cool building. We developed a hardware device with a new mechanical engineer, and we're ready for clinical testing, hopefully within the next month.
So we're still looking for some money to help support that clinical testing. So if there's any investors in the room, then don't hesitate to get in contact. And for you guys now on your demo day, then we're wishing you the best of luck. We changed everything 2 days before the demo day. So if you don't feel ready, don't worry. And basically make the best out of it. Cheers.
Hi, my name is Jan Elsner, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Skinovita. We participated in the second batch of Vision Health Pioneers, and our telemedicine system makes it possible to do phototherapy sessions from home. That saves patients of chronic skin diseases a lot of clinic visits, and at the same time a lot of costs for our health insurances. We have just closed our 1 million pre-seed funding round and are now preparing our first clinical trial. First of all, we would really like to congratulate cohort 3 and 4 for what you have achieved so far. Building up a product innovation in the healthcare sector as an independent company is probably one of the biggest startup challenges you could choose. And still it's worth it, because you can significantly improve the life quality of other people. And always remember, other startups have made it and so can you, and that's why we're very looking forward to your pitches.
Hi, I'm Mina. I'm the CTO and founder of Memm. Memm is a digital toolbox for psychotherapists in cognitive behavioral therapy. We launched our app in the beginning of this year, and since then acquired over 1,000 customers actually using our app. At the moment, we did a relaunch of our product, and we tried to increase our market size since we got additional funding and now have capacity for marketing. We're super excited for your pitches. Fingers crossed to all of you. You're gonna rock the stage. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Steve Thijssen, co-founder and CTO of Wavy Health. Our startup was part of batch 2 of Vision Health Pioneers, and Wavy Health bridges the gap between cardiovascular disease and mental health. Wavy is a deep tech medical device app for digital therapeutics that helps chronic patients to manage and lower their stress. After VHP, we have made big progression that was never possible without their support. At the moment, we are doing clinical trial over 100 women with CVD. We won an award of 100K from the Veterans Affairs, got 2 ISO approvals, and preparing everything to get the DIGA approval next year. I wish the amazing startups from Cohort 3 and 4 all the best. You have made amazing progression and got support from the best healthcare professionals in Germany. So enjoy the time on the stage, because the ecosystem is ready for great innovations in healthcare.
So thank you for that, alumni, and those words of encouragement. I'm going to stop teasing you and going to start announcing the first coach that's then going to announce the first startup. Of course, making software is challenging in itself. Our next coach also is a specialist in dealing with regulatory issues around software. So he's been an absolutely spectacular resource for our startups. Please give it up for the amazing Johannes Starlinger.
Yeah, thanks for letting me present a startup here on stage and live and in person. I'm Johannes. I've been a coach with Vision Health Pioneers for about 1.5 years. A great pleasure, actually. By training, I'm a medical doctor, a computer scientist, and a specialist for medical device regulatory, especially regarding software. And I'm a founder myself. And what you might not know, I'm actually a father of 3. And as a father of 3, I was absolutely shocked when a couple of weeks ago I read a report that some studies suggest that the incidence of eating disorders amongst young adolescents has gone up by up to 60% since the start of the pandemic, right? I mean, 60%. All the more excited was I to meet Team Aidable about 6 months ago and being able to coach them through their amazing journey through Vision Health Pioneers. And before I actually let them take the stage, I want to tell you 2 things about them, which I found especially remarkable. Number 1, the way they considerately and calmly and highly effectively work together as a team, as a wonderful team of Corinna, Anne, and Lucas. I found that really, I found it enjoyable to coach them in team sessions, let's put it like that. And put in regulatory terms, I found it very amazing how they, from the first moment on, did formative usability evaluations with their customers. What does that mean? They had very first versions of their product, which they took to their customers, to their prospective customers, to parents, guiding, helping, supporting their teenage daughters and sons through their eating disorder journey. So they took these very first prototypes to their customers and sought feedback, first PDFs, first versions of their course, and now they've arrived at a great and amazing product, which I'm very excited to see in the pitch, and which I hope you're excited to see next to. Please welcome on stage Anne from Team Aidable.
Why can't you just sit normally? That's a question eating disorder sufferers have to hear over and over again. And so did I. I was suffering from eating disorders myself for years, and one of the worst parts was to see how much my parents and my sister were suffering with me. So you might ask yourself, why didn't you just go to therapy? I did, but while therapy lasts about 6 months, eating disorder take about 6 years. So 2 years after therapy, 41% might be recovered, but 59% relapse at home. So that obviously scares parents a lot. And on the other hand, they can't really understand how something as natural as eating might become such a huge problem. So they really push their child to eat, but that only makes it harder for them. So this vicious cycle actually creates a huge burden on the parents and a lot of psychological distress that ends up in an increased risk for the parents to develop mental illnesses themselves. In Germany alone, there's 3.3 million people who are suffering from eating disorders. And this results in a total cost of 610 million euros per year. Eating disorders have been dealt with so far between the sufferer and their psychotherapist in therapy. But after the therapy ends, the sufferer is usually left on their own. And I already showcased how that usually ends up in a lot of relapses. So we are convinced that in order for therapy to have a long-term effect, parents need to be included actively. And we do this with our video course because we provide pre-filmed video training that on the one hand give the parents concrete advice on how to deal with difficult situations and on the other hand protects their own mental health. Besides the video trainings, parents also get an interactive workbook which we developed in close cooperation with leading experts. But what did parents do so far? They had the option to book counseling sessions, but those were rather expensive, and the advice that you're giving there is quickly forgotten because you only heard it once, and in the next emotional situation, you just react differently. On the other hand, they had the option to go to regular support group meetings, but there you only really hear one depressing story after another. So the 50 users who already had the chance to test aidable were really happy and thankful because for the first time, they really felt heard with their worries and fears, as well as acknowledged as potential supporters. And they just thought that it was really authentic to hear the advice from a former sufferer. Our business model is B2C and self-payer based, giving the user the choice between subscription and one-time payment. But how many potential users are we even talking about? I mean, earlier I mentioned 3.3 million sufferers, and out of these, 1.2 million are adolescents who have 2.4 million parents who we directly target with our solution. 2 months ago, we officially founded Aidable, and next up will be our first revenues as we are about to launch our first product version. And in March next year, we will launch our final product. In the end of next year, we want to be available in the whole German-speaking DACH region, as well as have an Aidable community established in Germany. From the beginning of 2024 on, we will go into further internationalization, but we can also imagine working towards verticals or even horizontals in the future. We are so sure that our timing is actually perfect because, as Johannes already said, eating disorder numbers are rising steadily, and the pandemic only pushed this development. Digital healthcare solutions are accepted more and more, and last but not least, there just currently is no comparable solution available. Our team consists of us 3 founders. We all have a personal background with eating disorders, but we also have a complementary business background. We are currently onboarding a psychotherapist who will complete our core team, because we also have 2 great advisors on board who give us such valuable professional support. What we need right now is financial support of 400K, which we will need for further product development, our team, and for marketing expenses. Let's jointly enable caregivers to aid.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you have any questions for the startups, please send them in via Slido. Let's do some questions. Somebody asked, can you please give more details about the content of the video courses?
Sure. Our videos usually are about one difficult, specific, and typical situation with which many people struggle when it comes to eating disorders. So we basically structure our videos in 4 steps. I always begin with telling or talking about my own experience, then giving some advice on how someone could have helped me in the situation. Next, I will give a concrete example of how that might even look like. And last but not least, there's a call to action on what you can do right now. So we really try to ensure that our online course is a long-term training rather than a one-time advice. That's why we also have a workbook which really gives you an impulse on reflecting after the situation and even preparing yourself to react even better in the next similar situation. So we really try to focus on long-term training.
And why the parents and not the sufferers? Why target them?
Yeah, one point is that there just are already some solutions for the sufferers themselves, and we really saw a gap in solutions for the caregivers, because eating disorders really develop in a certain setting, and it's almost impossible and it's just really hard to recover in the exact same setting. So besides the patient, the social surroundings have to change as well. So there are even studies that show that therapies where the parents were actively included are much more effective and are much more long-term. So in the best case scenario, we prevent patients from relapsing by training their parents.
Great. And somebody else also noticed this. Why a weekly subscription model? That's out of the ordinary. Monthly is much more common.
Yeah, I mean, we are aware that that's not the typical pricing model, but our users actually told us, they told us that they compare our solutions to counseling sessions, which are actually ideally booked on a weekly basis and are much higher priced. So it's just a pricing model that's easier for them to assess.
And then somebody else asked, what's your marketing strategy?
Our user research showed that almost all the parents whose child is starting to struggle to eat react in the same way. They Google. So we really strongly focus on a really strong SEO and SEA performance. And besides that, we are currently doing analog marketing. So we reach out to the current touch points, such as counseling centers and support groups, because that's just where you reach this target group. And they are just great multipliers because they love our solution as well. And we know that this method doesn't really scale perfectly, but we think it's still a good starting point to gain at least the first 100 customers, who we all know are the hardest to reach. So that's our current standing point. We are always open and happy to talk to investors who think that they can support us in this area. Yeah.
So definitely do that. If you're an investor and you can support, please reach out. So the personal question, have you seen the Louis Theroux documentary where he actually goes and visits some people that suffer with eating disorders? Have you seen that?
No, actually not. I will definitely look into this one, but I know that there are very great documentaries on YouTube. For example, I think some at least German-speaking people might know Leroy. He talked to at least 2 videos I know he talked to sufferers, and those are really, really emotional, but great for understanding the perspective of a sufferer as well. So I can only recommend.
The Louis Theroux one, I really like that you could see the relationship with the parents and how that's well, out of the ordinary. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Give another round of applause. So you've already kind of heard that user experience has been central as part of creating some of the products that the startups are working on. One of our coaches is actually a user experience expert and specialist specifically in e-health applications, and she's going to be presenting the next team. Please raise the roof for Susanna Feldt.
Hello, I'm Susanna. I'm very happy to present today Physikit. So, as you said already, I'm a user experience designer and work oftentimes with the teams at the beginning. We do design thinking workshops, all this innovation methodologies, and focusing then on like the user research and really evaluating their pilots and proof of concepts and so on. So I'm really happy to introduce you to Physikit today. Physikit offers a service for startups for home test kits for their patients. So, and that's actually the very, very smart thing about their solution. So currently, myself, I'm researching on everything around the microbiome and gut health. And by analyzing the market, I noticed that almost all nutritions or startups that they could benefit from an offering of like having home test kits as a service. So I'm super, super happy to have Kilian and Maroš on the stage and seeing their development and hearing about their first pilots.
Excellent. Give it up for Physikit.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Susanna, for the great introduction. Great to be here today to present to you Physikit, at-home testing as a service enabling the future of health. So roughly 70% of the diagnostical journeys involve some kind of biosampling. However, if you look at how it's being done today, it's not very optimal. It's not very optimal neither for the patients nor for the providers. Let's start with the former. For patients, first of all, it's very difficult to get an appointment to, for example, get blood drawn. Afterwards, you have to commute to physical locations for the blood draw. And last but not least, wait in crowded waiting rooms. And then come back afterwards to discuss the results. For providers, it's also a very complicated process, working with, for example, laboratories. And ultimately, this yields them less time to do other things with the patients. And now, let's quickly think about digital providers, like, for example, teleconsultation providers. There, the problem really escalates because ultimately, to integrate a physical biosample taking journey with a digital solution, for example, a teleconsultation, is very difficult. And throughout all of this, there is a solution that could roughly save 50% of the testing cost, and that is at-home testing. We all know and have used COVID at-home tests, but there's also more elaborate solutions like that. For example, dried blood spot cards that we base our first business on, where a patient can prick their finger at home, apply a bit of blood to a filter card, and ultimately send it to a laboratory for analysis. However, all of these solutions are very difficult to implement for healthcare providers, for example, the teleconsultation providers. First of all, they need to know what is out there. Then they need to have the right expertise in-house to make the optimal decisions. They need to have the connections in the industry to set up, for example, laboratory analysis. And last but not least, they need to have the in-house capacity to implement the solutions. We talked to a lot of founders. One told us he talked to 20 different laboratories. None of them even wanted to pick up their initial pilot. And then ultimately, when they found through connections the laboratory, they couldn't analyze what they wanted to. And this is why there's Physikit. We help health providers to implement and orchestrate at-home testing without them having to worry about anything. We help them with biomarker selection, so what to test for. We help them by producing the optimal test kits for the use cases and providing the enabling technology, providing also a partner lab network, logistics, and taking care of regulatory and compliance topics. Let's bring this to life. It's very easy for end users and healthcare providers. For end users, first of all, they use an app, for example, of their healthcare provider and order a test. They use the test kit like I described before. They ship the sample directly to us, and they receive the results on the healthcare provider application. And ultimately, they pay for the test to their healthcare providers. For the healthcare providers, it's equally easy. They just implement our API and pay us. And in the background, we take care of the complex process that we will not go through today that can make all of this happen. So this transition towards at-home testing is a huge shift in the market and a big opportunity to capture that we are currently on the way to do so. First of all, in EU North America, the testing market overall is $160 billion worth, out of which we estimate roughly 110 to be at-home testing relevant. A 5% market share of this would be a $5 billion opportunity. So the market currently is very young. A lot of focus on the B2C testing, which is a completely different business model than ours. And on the B2B side, there's not a lot of players active already, and the players that are active have different focus point than us. We have made great progress already with Physikit. We have 3 initial customers with initial orders of roughly 100,000 euros, out of which we expect an ongoing monthly recurring revenue of 20 to 30% with 1,000 euros with these customers alone, many more customers in the pipeline, and a lot of other traction points around this. Quick example, one of our customers is an e-health app. They currently focus on other tests, but they had the problem that they wanted to expand their offering fast and had less experience with laboratories, blood testing, and all of the topics that I explained above. That's why they became our customers. We have signed the first contract with them, and we orchestrate the entire process for them. So how will we expand? Initially, we are in Germany and Slovakia, focus on dry blood spots and e-health applications. We are pushing towards Europe quite fast due to the easy logistics of dry blood spots, and then add other sample types and other customer groups over time. This is us. My background is IT and business. Maros, my co-founder, has a background in molecular biology and laboratory science. We were able to expand our team already with a lot of complementary team members and have great advisors, and are looking forward to your questions now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So let's go to the questions. Somebody asked, why do you use dry blood?
So the great thing about dry blood spots for us is that it's just an optimal starting point, because A, it's great for patients, and B, it's great for us to roll out. For patients, it's very easy because they can just draw a bit of blood at home to a filter card and don't need to worry about express shipment because the blood is dried. And that leads also to the point B that I was just describing, because ultimately for us to open new countries with our operations is also comparatively easy, just because of the dried nature of blood that allows us to use the same laboratory network within different countries at the same time.
And does it have an expiration date if it's lying around for a couple of weeks at home? Is that a problem?
So it's actually not a problem. The expiration date is long enough to facilitate cross-border journeys very easily. Oh, wow. So that's not a problem.
Cool. And somebody asked, how competitive is your market?
Actually, the interesting thing about the market is that it's really picking up right now. We see more players in the US already, for example, some participating in Y Combinator currently. So we think this is a great space to be in, and we really want to push fast to make progress here in Europe and specifically in Germany as well.
Awesome. Any investors in the room? FOMO, get on board now. So somebody asked, let me see. Oh, yes. Can tests get reimbursed by insurance companies?
That's, of course, a great question. It is technically possible, and there are some examples already where it's happening. We are not at the full legal setup for this yet. We need some time for it, but that's why we also want to push into lateral expansion to other countries quite fast to collect all the self-payer willingness to pay across the markets, and then in parallel work on reimbursement in our home market, Germany, first of all, and then roll it out from there.
Interesting. And then other people ask, do laboratories take advantage of working with you versus directly with e-health providers?
From our perspective and from what we hear from our partner labs so far, they do greatly, just because they are used to working with big established companies as their counterparts. For example, hospital chains or big pharma companies. And they are not used to working with smaller, more moving around kind of customers. And that's why it's a win-win for both sides, because we build a solution that is very easy, or that makes it very easy to onboard and serve all of these customers.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the laboratories have us as an aggregator of demand that feeds them through one operational channel, a lot of business that can grow over time. So far, we've seen this as very positive.
Excellent. And then somebody else asked, what are the limitations of dry blood testing compared to regular blood samples taken by healthcare providers?
Yeah, of course. That's a great point as well that we, of course, think about a lot as well. One aside before I answer the question, ultimately, I mentioned that dried blood spots are our starting point, just because they are easy to implement and great for patients. But of course, they're not the end of our developments. We push into other sample types afterwards that then give us a bigger scale and bigger capabilities in the market. But to go back to the question, the interesting thing, of course, is that drying the blood has advantages, but also disadvantages. You do lose some data points. But the great thing is that with dry blood spots, we estimate that we can give inputs into roughly 80% of the most common patient journeys. Not all of them, but a lot. That's why this is a great starting point for us that then will be complemented over time with other sample types.
Do you see yourself doing undried blood somewhere down the line?
That's definitely a great point. That will depend on the use case, but it's something we're definitely looking into.
Excellent. Another round of applause.
Thanks so much.
So up next, our next coach is actually a lawyer, and he has been coaching a lot of the startups through all of the different things, funding, setting up their companies, corporate law, all of that good stuff that you, as a founder, maybe not really looking forward to, but it's great to have somebody in your back helping you out with that. He works at Startup Lawyers, so please welcome via video, Frido Kent.
My name is Frido Kent, and I am a lawyer at Thomas Startup Lawyers in Berlin. And we are coaches for the VHP teams on legal matters. And in that capacity, I had the pleasure to work together with the team from Blended Support, with whom I worked on their incorporation of their limited liability company. I experienced Blended Support to be a very motivated team on a very important mission, and I think therefore that you will enjoy the following pitch very much. I wish Blended Support all the best on their journey, and have fun with their pitch. Bye-bye.
Thank you. A day can start quite normally, and then suddenly everything changes. Traumatic experiences can have a devastating psychological impact, which always affects the wider social system. So not only the people who are directly involved, like the people here in this train, but also first aid helpers, witnesses, and family members of those affected. If not treated, trauma will have long-term consequences, which even manifest in systematical brain changes. Early interventions have found to be effective in minimizing these consequences. The problem is they are no early interventions available. Even if a person knows exactly what to do and whom to call, it takes on average 9 weeks until this person will receive treatment. But there are other problems. Traumas associated with shame, with guilt, there's lack of knowledge, disorientation, stigmatization. These are all reasons preventing people from getting help when they actually need it, and sometimes they will never seek for it, which drastically increases the risk for developing complex trauma disorders. So we want to change that. Our solution is a medical application, which is based on the medicine guidelines for treating trauma. Basically, we are taking parts from trauma therapy and transforming them into the digital space in order to make them available on our phones. So people can use them independent where they are, when they want to use it, and whether there are available therapy places. This here is a typical emotional dysregulation followed by trauma when there's no intervention, and this is the goal of our app. It supports people in regulating their emotions and stabilizing themselves, in order to experience self-efficacy and self-control again, which are main mechanisms when it comes to trauma healing. So how do we want to reach people who are in high stress and has little cognitive capacities? Well, we have found very innovative ways to do so. And I believe that this creativity is what makes us unique. Basically, we are using very little text, but rather more subtle forms of communication, such as vibration, visual stimuli, and auditive stimuli, in order to reach those people. Unique selling point number 2 is that we are collaborating with the relevant actors in the acute settings, thereby implementing our solutions as quickly as possible in order to secondary prevent, which is different from the competitors in the market who has rather a curative goal. So let me welcome you to my very beautiful team. We have 30 years of experience in trauma treatment in our core team. We have a relevant network of healthcare specialists with letters of interest, and we have a young multidisciplinary team which can work on this basis quickly and efficiently. And we need to be quick and efficient. Recent years has shown that trauma is on a rise. It is affecting a vast amount of people, and the consequences are devastating, not only for the individuals, but also for society itself. This year is a scientific estimation of the cost of trauma consequences, which are 11 billion euros just in Germany, just for 1 year. And this is where we stand right at the moment. So we have launched our MVP, which is tested in 3 professional organizations, providing us data about the efficiency and the usability of our app. The first step into the market, we actually addressed the risk group of developing trauma, which are organizations of first aid helpers, volunteer workers, and people working in traffic associations, with a potential of 8 million users in this segment. In the second step, we want to become a medical product, thereby be reimbursed in particular by accident insurance companies, rent insurance companies, and Berufsgenossenschaften, with a potential of 80 million use cases each year. But we don't want to stop there. Our head is full of ideas. We want to address other markets, not just acute trauma, other forms of trauma. We want to implement future-oriented technology to improve our care. And we want to build a worldwide network of trauma experts so we can implement our solution directly in crisis areas, such as the Ukraine, for instance, at the moment. And I want to invite you to be part of this story. Great Vision needs financial support, that's for sure, but even more importantly, investments in partnerships and relationships. And yeah, so please join us to make our vision become a reality, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the questions. Somebody asked, can you describe more of the content of the app?
Sure. So the content of our app is based, like I said, on the medicine guidelines. So there are 4 major contents, interventions of it, which we also use in trauma therapy, which is psychoeducation, providing people information about actually what is going on and why are the reactions they are feeling, why they are sleepless, why they are impulsive. It's actually a normal reaction towards a very unnormal event. Then we have practical exercises for them to regulate immediately. So for instance, like a breathing exercise. Like I said, there's a lot of transformation going on there as well. So for instance, a lot of people have like an audio for this. Like we used a GIF actually as a visual anchor to guide the breathing and calm people, and also use vibration, which is, I think, really, really nice. People can have it in their pockets and have a vibration anchor of a breathing exercise and can use it in acute situation right away. So that is one part, and a very important part, I think, which actually none of the apps of the competitors have, is a resource activation. So that is where we would like to invite people to hold on to things that are good for them, which are in burdening times very, very important.
So can you give an example of a resource?
Yeah, resource can be many things. Of course, social support is a resource. Going to nature is a resource. I don't know. There are a lot of like it's very individual. Some people are like are spiritual, for instance, and get their resource and their strength. Yeah.
Excellent. And then somebody else asked, why are you starting with a B2B model?
Yeah, that is a very good question. So one reason for that is that there we really can target the risk groups of developing trauma. So which are first aid helpers who are way more likely to encounter a traumatic event, and they also know about the problem. They also have infrastructures within their organizations. A second reason for that is that we are starting with them, that we want to use them as multipliers as well.
Right.
So when we are on the scene, like on an acute scene, they already know the application. They already know like how to introduce it as well. What I find is very important for people, where do you get the application from and who's introducing it to you and in which context. So that was the reason for us that we think working together with, for instance, Deutsches Rotes Kreuz or firefighters is a good idea.
Yeah. And then, of course, personalization is a big topic and has been for years.
Yes.
Somebody asks, how do you individualize your solutions to the user's need?
Okay, then I think what we are doing right now is we have limited capabilities. We are looking for people who really believe in our product to make this more efficient is the wrong word, but right at the moment, we have a section of the typical symptoms of trauma, for instance, sleeplessness. And there people find individualized content for this situation. In future, hopefully in near future, we would like to include a diagnostic and monitoring tool where people can input like their situation based on a questionnaire. And based on this input, they get individualized content from the app.
Excellent. Well, that's it as far as time goes. So give him another round of applause. I thought that was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So who here thinks that you can never have enough lawyers? So not many hands going up in the room. Too many. Two people that raised their hands. We actually have another lawyer that's going to be up here on stage, and their specialism is actually medical law and digital medicine. So that's super relevant to our startups here today. So we're very happy to have them, and we definitely think that there's never enough lawyers. Maybe two is a good amount. Anyway, please give it up for the amazing Kristin Memm.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Kristin. I'm a German lawyer, and I'm highly specialized in medical law and regulatory in the field of digital health. And I am accompanying these young startup founders from the first day. They are entering the Vision Health Pioneers. And I stay at their side, consulting and educating them in terms of medical law and regulatory until they leave the program. Today, I'm having the honor of presenting you the team FreeMind. The very young startup founders of FreeMind are very passionate about and engaged in helping people with suffering from the disease ADHS. ADHS is a mental disease that is widespread and until today still oftentimes remain undiagnosed. Well, I'm very happy to present you the very professional founders of FreeMind today. FreeMind developed a quite unique digital solution, and they were combining a bio voice marker with a self-help tool in order to enable their patients suffering from ADHS to help themselves, first of all, diagnose or find out about their disease, and second, finding ways in a daily life to discover ways of changing their daily routine in order to make their own or to improve their own well-being. Well, I'm happy to be here and I'm very happy to present you this young startup, and I give you you should give a big applause to the team of FreeMind today.
FreeMind, thank you. That.
Hello, thank you, and thanks, Kristin. Let me start with a question. Do you sometimes feel concentrating on something that is boring to you is so hard that you almost can't do it? Or that you get easily distracted, things create an impulsive reaction from you, or you are impatient, you have trouble sitting still, or you have quick mood changes that change your mood from great to terrible and reverse in just a short period of time. If you have some of those symptoms, I can tell you those are the core symptoms of ADHD. And in case you wonder, what is ADHD actually? My name is Lydia, I'm a doctor, I'm specializing in psychiatry, and I can tell you one thing for sure, ADHD is measurable. That means ADHD is caused by a neurotransmitter disbalance in the brain. You lack dopamine. Dopamine is our rewarding hormone, and therefore you chase it. Everything that is new and shiny attracts your attention, but away from the things that you should maybe focus on. 1 in 20 adults has ADHD. That means even if you felt like, nah, those symptoms don't apply to me, they sure apply to someone you care about. But like Kristin said already, over 90% are undiagnosed and also untreated. It can't stay that way. 3.4 million adults in Germany have ADHD, and this costs the German healthcare market 5.1 billion euros a year, but even way more, 12 billion, if you include the cost for severe comorbidities like depression and anxiety that follow from having ADHD that is not treated. We are FreeMind, and our vision is to provide everybody who suffers from ADHD with the necessary tools to thrive in life and find focus in a chaotic world. We start with the screening that Kristin already introduced. We have the combination of the ASRS questionnaire that was developed and certified by WHO, and we have a voice biomarker developed by Charité. And within 120 seconds and only 9 questions, you can get an estimation if you have ADHD or rather not. But the core of our product is our self-help tool. We target typical ADHD pain points. We listed 4 of them: organization, time management, temper and impulse control, relationships, sexuality, and where do I put my extra energy. But what is of special importance to us is, I already said, I'm working in psychiatry, so for me it's important that it's CBT based. That means cognitive behavioral therapy. And we also have a game designer in our team who specializes on gamification. And gamification is one of our core USPs, because if our course is highly gamified, then we can be this one shiny thing that always stays attracting ADHD patients to stick to it and increases the adherence to the course. We are also building a community tool that will be led by doctors, also moderated. We will host bi-weekly seminars there. We'll have a content library where you can check facts on ADHD. And we also have weekly challenges in that our community can participate. What does it all cost? We're a freemium-based business model, and for us it's important that it will be affordable for everyone. We have a free screening tool. Our community will at first be on a pay-what-you-want basis, and our self-help courses will cost 39 euros if you're not part of our community, or 29 euros for members of our community. Our goal is to reach 2,000 members by the end of this year, 20,000 members by the end of next year. And we estimate that we can transfer 20% of them into buying at least one of our courses. If you think that's too ambitious, well, we did one outreach test with Nick. He is a dedicated ADHD influencer, and he did one post on TikTok, one post on Instagram, and led 20,000 people on our website. 6,000 of them could be converted into leads. That means we have their email addresses, and we will, as soon as our self-help courses are ready, reach out to them. Right now, we're looking, as you can see, for trustful and reliable business partners that will enable us to help our patients help themselves. This is the big team. It's actually not that big. It's 4 people and a dog, but this is the team looking forward to meeting you. We are FreeMind, and we bring focus to your chaotic world.
Thank you so much. And now let's go to some questions from the audience. Somebody asks, can you explain the content of the app a bit more, especially the self-help courses?
Sure. So what we will do is cognitive behavioral therapy is not just very based on patient therapeutic relationship, but it's more like, maybe we don't know where the symptoms come from, but we sure know how you can get rid of them or how you can get them into control. That means by a long time of studying big science behind it, we have proven techniques that help short period of time to get better with your symptoms, and we put it in this shiny surrounding of a web-based app that will be highly gamified. And this, like I said earlier, is especially to increase the adherence. The content of the courses will be basically the exact same thing that you do in therapy, but instead of therapist asking, well, but how do you feel about that now? This will be within the app.
Okay. And of course, a therapist is a person of authority. How do you build trust?
That's also an interesting question. So those bi-weekly seminars, we have tried them already. We've held 50 of them, and we have talked to a big community of people who suffer from ADHD, and we've learned that if you talk to them directly, if you engage with them, if you answer their questions, and if you take them seriously, and maybe also sometimes do the extra effort to do research on something that you don't know at the exact same point because it's very specific, then you can build trust. And that is something that is shared within the community. So the community for us is a place where everybody can interact with each other, but also where they can directly contact us. And for us, from our side, it is also especially to build trust.
Okay, and then Anonymous asks, have you considered DIGA listing to get a higher reimbursement for your therapy?
So for me, as a therapist, most important thing is that it should be quick help. Right. Because half of our team actually has ADHD, and we all went through this journey of even if you're a doctor yourself, to actually get the diagnosis, get treatment, it takes ages. And being a DIGA is great, but it can also take long. Right. And we want to have a solution now. So we're starting with a non-medical product. We'll go into medical product. But we already want to have something that is ready by March next year, and that will be, at that point, usable by our customers.
Okay, and then someone else asks, where do you sign up to join, and what are the timelines? And can they leave their email address or something?
Sign up to join the community. Oh yeah, that's actually a great question. So one thing I didn't tell you in the pitch is that we had a strong pivot because we first just wanted to do the diagnostic part, but then with all the patient feedback that we got, we realized that actually the thing that is needed is help and not a diagnosis, because what can you buy from that? Nothing, maybe Ritalin, but that's not a help for everything. So that's why we just had a strong pivot. That's why we're quite new with our social media and our website. But we are happy when you want to talk to us at our stand to share the details on that.
Excellent. Well, we'll definitely be doing that a little bit in a little bit. So thank you again. That was really great.
Thanks.
Now, as a startup, you definitely need a CFO, but often you don't have money to pay a CFO, and you probably don't have work for them all year round. So an on-demand CFO is really super great to have. And luckily for the startups that you've seen here today, Vision Health Pioneers has one as their coach, a on-demand experienced CFO, and they're going to be presenting our next startup. Please welcome via video, Jana Scharfschwerdt.
With the next team, I've had quite a special journey. Noah Therapies supports such a bold vision, and it was a pleasure to see how much the team has grown in confidence to support its vision. Not just in their financial planning, where we've tested a whole lot of business models, but most importantly, in their attitude as entrepreneurs. Not to say too much, but Noah Therapies aims to be the oncologist they always wished for. That's how I would put it. And it was such a pleasure to work with you guys, and I'm cheering for you. Have a good time.
Last one. So nice to be here. Let's get started. My name is Kai. I'm a co-founder of Noah Therapies, a medical doctor and cancer specialist. And that is why I can say cancer has become curable. The proof are the great survival rates across different cancer entities. What gets us there is precision medicine, which uses over 20,000 highly individual patient journeys. This means that precision medicine has created a road system that is highly complex and very hard to navigate. This has consequences. For drug developers, developing new drugs and improving the old ones has become costly and highly competitive, because they have to do trials and they have to collect data to do that. For them, the bottleneck is the hospital and the doctors. But for the doctors, the management burden is much too high. And in the end, all crumbles down to the patients. They are the victims, because today patients have to manage their therapies themselves. We can be honest. And they feel a loss of control. This has to change. And Noah Therapies is the navigation system for those patient journeys. We empower patients and support the shift that has already taken place to finally also accelerate drug development. And this is how we do it. We have built an app, a very seamless app for patients, together with over 100 patients, that guides them step by step through everything they need during their journey, with easy to-do lists, really easy to understand therapy plans and appointment reminders, but also with holistic care. And this is not only a buzzword. And this is adaptable for any therapy in the market because of a medical algorithm that plays in the backend. How this works is that we automize the patient journeys based on therapy guidelines, international therapy guidelines, and therapy standards or trial protocols. Our app generates tailored to every patient, very individual therapy journeys that then play down on the app. What we do with it is we are always a step ahead and tell the patient what the next step is, just like in a navigation system. And now it gets interesting, because as we automize, we know exactly at what point of time what kind of data originates. And we guide the patients as well through collecting data and storing it. This gives us the opportunity to follow a twofold business model. On the one hand, as a navigation app for clinics and trial sponsors, and on the other hand, as a real-world data platform that anyone can access who needs medical evidence. And this is not only pharma and biotech, it's also companies in the field of longevity and complementary medicine. This puts us in a very attractive market, and I think the numbers speak for themselves. There is competition out there. For example, our biggest competitor in the US, Jasper, which has just raised 25 million in a Series A round. But what they all do is they concentrate on the site and the doctor. So the doctor, again, has a lot of management effort to do. The unique selling point of Noah is that we are patient-centric and that we are embedded into the clinical workflows. So there is no additional effort for a doctor. And this is why the clinics work with us now, and this is why they will scale with us. And here we want to use a network effect. We onboard clinics at the moment, and in these clinics, there are trials done. So we are at the pole position to also deliver companionship for the trials. And with a new trial, around about 50 to 300 new clinics can be onboarded. And there are a lot of patients in those clinics, so we can quickly onboard a lot of patients. The time to move is right now with the clinics because of two reasons. First of all, a lot of new precision drugs are entering the market over the next year or the next years. And second of all, there will be a regulatory shift for clinics, and they have to prove that digitization strategy until 2025, and we help them with that. We have been quick because of these reasons. After only 3 months, we have launched our first product, have done a trial, and have now onboarded our first customer clinics. And four more clinics are coming until the end of the year. The speed was possible because of a great team that is driven, hardworking, and combines everything we need to build a great medical product. But most importantly, first and foremost, it's our vision that aligns us and gives us the drive, that the patient at our core accelerates the research for the medicine of tomorrow. And if you align with that as well, at home or here, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, let's go to the questions from the audience. Audience, thank you so much for sending them in. The first question is, how is the solution integrated in the hospital care management?
Well, at the moment, it's quite easy. We onboard clinics with just one piece of paper, because the whole app is based on guidelines already. So we just play down everything they already do, and can then be used by patients alone at the moment. So it's not much more effort for doctors and clinics.
That seems super straightforward. Now, another question is, what is the effort needed from the patient side to use the app?
So it's actually only uploading one document that any cancer patient gets in the clinic.
Right.
It's called a tumor board. It's like a doctor's letter. And from there, we can easily automate the whole journey, actually.
Right.
And then in the app, it's only confirming that something has happened. So it's as easy as possible.
Right.
And we had already some users, and the engagement rate on these confirmations is 98%.
Wow.
So it's quite good.
I'm guessing you don't forget that you have cancer, right? So that's
exactly.
Definitely. So let's go to the next question. Do physicians fear the app might interfere with their treatment?
So it cannot interfere. Interestingly, some clinics already come to us because they see that we lower the administrative burden for them.
Oh, that's good.
And interestingly, also, like when I say holistic, we are really holistic. So we offer a lot of content at the moment, what else people can do during their treatment.
Right.
And doctors really enjoy that because they are not aware of a lot of things. And so this has come out to that this is our expertise as well.
Right.
And they actually do not have any fear that this, that it interferes, especially also because we rather do administration, not interfering into treatments.
So the patients are actually coming with helpful suggestions towards the doctors thanks to your app?
Yeah, that's happened.
I think that's industry first. Excellent. Let me see. Any other questions? Oh, yes. What's your current marketing strategy to reach your target?
So what we do is actually clinical sales, because as I told, we go to clinics and on average in the clinics that we want to onboard, or that we onboard in the beginning, on average there are 1,000 patients. So this is enough. It's clinical sales and word of mouth so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the network effects before. How does that work?
So we onboard clinics at the moment, and in the clinics per clinic, there are 2 to 3 clinical trials done. So we have now 2 clinical trials that we also can do on the app.
Right.
And the idea is to, with that pole position, get the foot into the companies that do those trials or research institutes, and then get new clinics on board, because one clinical trial approximately has 50 to 30 sites doing the trials. So this is the network effect, and then having more trials, more clinics, more patients.
So you knock on the other people's door, you're like, hey, we're helping them out, they're super happy, how about you guys?
That's it.
That sounds good. And then long-term strategy, you only have 30 seconds, go.
Long-term strategy would be what actually Jana said, for patients to be the oncologist that everyone wants.
Yeah.
Someone who is always aware what's the next step, someone who knows everything about the medical journey, but also the integrative one.
Yeah.
And doing it, like also having the business ready
to
reach that vision, and also to have like new medications that really help the rest of the 10% who's not surviving today.
Excellent. Well, give him another round of applause. I think that was absolutely great. Thank you so much. Now, unfortunately, that's it for today. I really enjoyed that. I think the startups did an absolutely fabulous job. And now the ball is in your court. If you saw a startup that you want to get in touch with, please go to visionhealthpioneers.de and contact the team. They'll be able to get you in touch with the startups. If you're an investor, there's also an email address for you. Go to send an email to investors@visionhealthpioneers.de, and you'll be able to book a one-on-one meeting, a virtual meeting with these startups. So get sending the emails, get clicking on the website, and together we'll do something amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I think the startups did such a great job that I think we should get them back up on stage. What do you think? Yeah, I see some nodding. Yeah, let's get them back up. Let's get them back up. So here's the plan. For the people in the room, we're going to do some mingling in a little bit. We're going to have some drinks with the startups. You'll get to actually meet them. For the rest of the people, this is kind of the end. So I think we should take one more big bow and then wave to the people on the stream. And I'll count to 3, and then audience, you can clap again and make some noise and all that kind of stuff. Sound good? Yeah, I see some nodding. Okay, perfect. So 1, 2, 3. Bye-bye.